So you can look back. There we are, that's been recorded. So you'll be able to look back if there's something that I go fast on and you want to revisit later on, you can do that. Closed captioning should be enabled, so feel free to pop those on if you want to use them. Let me know if that's not working as it should. I think it's set as default. It says Q&A at the end, but do feel free through the webinar to ask any questions that you have. And if you haven't found them already, there's a link to all of the webinars that we offer. And you can also always sign up for a one-to-one demo or a demo with one of us and several of you if you wanted, if there's a group of you working together. Here is what I will cover today. So I will run through using the protocols.io editor, how to upload and import existing protocols, how to use the components and actually show you a few of them in a bit more detail if you haven't used them already, pulling in images and videos into protocols, and then a quick look in the file manager, try and run through the differences between forking and copying protocols, and also how to create collections of protocols, and then move on just to kind of all of the ins and outs of sharing, and then lots of time for Q&A. We may not take the whole hour, but we'll see how we go on. And then it will be just Q&A. So literally that's all the slides that I have. So we'll get started. I'm going to put this up so I remind myself as I go through. We'll start with uploading and importing. So the assumption here is that you've all used protocols.io a little bit and are a little bit familiar with it. So hopefully I don't need to go into kind of all of the basics. This is the file manager view. Hopefully you're aware of that. Workspaces on the left-hand side. We can navigate between them. We can go from the file manager to the profile view. So if there's lots of you in a workspace here, you can see anything that's been published, any discussions or comments, who the other members are, and all of that kind of information. You can get to the administration from this profile view. You can also get to it from over on the left-hand side. Every workspace has at least one administrator. So if you made it, you would be the administrator, but you can make someone else administrator. There can be more than one of you. Under the administration, you can control all sorts of different things, who the members are, the preferences. So if we put members up, you can see who's in here, can invite people if we wanted. This is just me in a demo one. But if I had other members, I could control the privileges that they have in here because I'm the administrator. The preferences, again, we can get to these from here too. Preferences. I could put a nice logo if I've got one, or if I was using it for my lab, I could add that logo or one for my organization. Give it a description if it makes sense. Put keywords. If you add keywords, it becomes more discoverable. So if you want to make a public workspace, it becomes discoverable via those keywords and anything else you've popped in here. And then there's a lot of advanced options, linked to external websites if you want to put one for a lab, or your organization, locations, affiliations, protocol keywords, so something a bit more specific. Tech support, we often have users who are at core facilities and things like this, so that becomes more relevant. You can configure if you want notifications for different things. You can configure if it's private or public. So mine is private. They always start out private when you make a new workspace. If for your lab you want a public facing one where published protocols will be visible, you can create a public one. So I know I've got users in Manchester and Rothamsted, both of whom have a license, so you would be able to have unlimited. If you don't have a license, you may not have as many workspaces, but you would still be able to configure this for any workspace you do create. You can change how invitations can be set and use a link as well. If you want to just give a link to everyone in your lab to join your workspace, you can just do that way. So there's lots of different things. Other things you can configure, accesses, you can change kind of all of the settings for the whole of the workspace this way. So if a group leader has specific concerns about letting people remove files or letting people publish without them seeing content, they can stop this. Administrator will still be able to publish, but then you can stop other people publishing without you having visibility of what they've done. So lots of configuration in there. And then in the workspace folder, again, you can make your folders, you can organize everything in here. and you can make new content. So new protocol, new collection, new document, etc. And you can upload files. So shortcut, if you're not ready to start creating protocols, you can actually just, if you've got PDFs on your desktop or, you know, scattered across different group members, you can just drag and drop files into one common workspace as a placeholder for content for the lab if you wanted, or your own, just to kind of put things in one place. So that is as easy as dragging files onto this workspace. I won't do that now, but just to show you. Next easiest thing, if you want to kind of create a slightly more discoverable protocol, you can make a new protocol. Let's just pop one in here and just upload an attachment to it. So you don't need to put the steps or anything like that, but you could then add, so under description even, you can just drag and drop, add a protocol here, whatever your file is. I don't know if I actually have any files to import. Here we go. So if I've just got a protocol that's a PDF, I can upload that here. It's been added to the protocol. I can give myself an abstract and put in some keywords, etc., etc. Well, they should be comma separated, not semicolon. And things like this, and then it becomes discoverable. So if this is just test with attachment, at least within your workspace, you'll be able to find these, as would other users be able to find these. And it's minimal, obviously, there's not a lot there, but the keywords are in, there's a brief abstract. So your abstract might include, you know, the different approach that's being applied here, whatever the protocol is, a little bit more information than is in the title, and it becomes findable. And if later on you've got more time, you can make a new version of that and then actually import the steps in the step-by-step way. So this can just be kind of placeholder until you have a bit more time. So these are just options for getting protocols in. I can see Ramiro. Is it just PDFs that you can upload to your workspace from Claudia? No, you can upload absolutely any file type at all. There are some file, quantity limitations on the amount of data you can dump into the workspace, but you can put quite a lot in there. And it's definitely any file type at all. It doesn't have to be PDF. Ramiro, if a protocol was published by a person that does not belong to the group, how can the group access the protocol or take ownership of the protocol? Okay, I'll show you kind of the forking or being able to use a protocol that someone else has published in a little bit. So I'll give you an example of how to do that, Ramiro, if you bear with me for a little bit, but that's a really good question, and I will show that one. The next way to get protocols in, if you've got them in some other format, and you want to get them into protocols.io, but you know it's a bit tedious to copy paste every separate step if you've already got it in a different document. I am going to show you how you can actually use a bit of a workaround. So we have insert steps from text. So if I click that on the left, then I can go to where I have my other protocol, maybe as a Google Doc or a PDF or a Word document, and copy that in. So I just so happen to have this readily open on my desktop. It's quite small for you to see. I don't know if I can zoom it up a little bit on that one. But it's just protocol title, author's abstract, before you start information, and then steps. And there's steps 1 through 16 in there. So if I copy the steps, I'll do the right click so you can see what I'm doing, and I copy that and go back into the one where I'd clicked on insert steps from text. Each number is a step. That's right, that's how I had it. You could have it so that each line is a step, or it might have come from markdown text. I'll do the right click again. I would always advise paste and match style, because if you pull from a PDF or you pull from a Word document, it will often have all the weird tagging that comes with it. If you do paste and match style, that will all get stripped out. So I've just pasted in my steps 1 through 16 and then preview, and you can see they've all been put into steps 1 through 16. And then I'll just say add to the protocol. So this is a little bit of a workaround. Obviously, all those other elements like the authors and the abstract, and before you start, you'd still have to paste those in separately. But it is a big time saver to get everything pulled in like this. What doesn't get pulled in is the formatting with the components that we have. So for example, 1 microliter here, we would want that to go in as the component. So you'd have to go through and add those to turn them into components afterwards. But again, it's still a big time saver for you. So again, you know, temperature, I think most of the time it works when you just click it through. No, but sometimes it loses what the value was. So if you do go through afterwards, you would have to just be careful that you capture that's gone in again. Okay, so 5 minutes, etc. You can go through and add them all on afterwards. Does save you some time. You've now got your protocol steps 1 through 16. So that's kind of a little bit of a hack on getting them in. You may or may not know about the protocol entry service. I meant to open that up actually, but let me just do that one. It's probably, oh no, it's not. There is an entry service that we have. If you're somewhere with a license, you can submit something for free. If you're somewhere without a license, there is a charge. But if you've got a long, complicated protocol that you would love to get onto protocols.io, but you're short on time and do have $50 to $100 or so lying around, you can submit it through this service. So this is protocols.io, we-enter-protocols. You submit it as a PDF or a Word doc or whatever format you've got. We have an editorial team. They've all been researchers previously, and they will enter the protocol into the system. A second person will check it. It is a manual process at the moment, so there is a kind of a need to go through and double check no errors have been added, especially from things like PDF. Sometimes characters and things get warped in the copy paste across or copying across process. So it does need a check. At that point, we would send it back to you to have a look, to review what we've input. You can request some changes using the commenting functionality. The editors would make changes, and then normally we just do 1 round of kind of those edits for an author. When you're happy, you would approve, and we would transfer the ownership to you so that you can just have that. It would still be private. You can still edit it and add maybe additional figures, images, videos, things like that that may not have been in that previous Word or PDF version, and then you can publish it or just share it internally, however you want to do. So again, you would just upload a file or put a link in if there's any relevant notes, and you would just submit. If you do have an account, you probably have a code that you can apply, and it would be free. So those are the options for kind of getting a protocol in from where you already have it. So coming back here, I'm going to go to components now. So I've got a protocol that I have created previously to show, just to run through some of the things. So I kind of showed you this already, but adding volumes and so on are all over here. So we could have 50, we can change the units, we could add in what it is here if we wanted, and then that's all captured. And then, you know, other things can go in alongside 100 microliters, reagent B, we'll just put RB. So you can capture all of these things as volumes. These are all the other components that we have. We do kind of separate them out into components that we think are more likely for different disciplines, but you can also say all, show all. Equally, you can star some, and then when you star them, they become on your favorites list. So we could star a few more, and I can toggle, sorry, I can click here and then I'll just see my favorites. So I can create my list of the ones that I use most commonly, just to make them more findable like this. It's very easy. We'll just stick with all of them for now and having them in here like this. So next thing to show is that you can create a sample specifically. So if I want to, I can generates, if there's a sample of something specific to this protocol that might be unique, I can actually define it here if it's something that's going to crop up multiple times. So we'll just call it mix ABC, mixture of, and you could put the quantities of A, B, and C, but you know, however you would define it. So the sample description will be displayed when viewing the protocol if you hover over the component. So I've created that now. This is my sample. So mix ABC. This is kind of, we're creating the sample. We're going to turn this one into, I don't know if this will work, but we'll try it. 50 mil, it lost its reagent. The reagent A, and so now we've got, this is, sample is ABC, and that's how we're going to create it. I've made, and then if I click my sample again, mix ABC. So we can kind of pull that in any other time later on if we want to. Pipetting. If we're pipetting and we want to show specific things that we're doing on the right hand side, we call these critical steps. So we've got pipette again at the next one. If we click the 6 dots on the left, there's actually a link to get you to all the critical steps. So here I can do pipette and it will show up. I think you can add 3 if you need to. So maybe we'll put mix as well, and they show up on the right, and they'll show up when you're viewing the protocol as well. So they're the way to kind of allow you to see at a glance what it is that you're doing. We can be mixing for, we'll say 1 hour, see if this works. There we go. So now we've got 1 hour. We can put additional information if there's something relevant. We could also put overnight, and then it will show us a duration that's overnight. The durations, when you add them, will be populating the time on the right hand side. If this, I think, is going to take about 5 minutes, I can add that. And if you put times all the way through, then you will get an overall time that should get calculated from everything in there. At the moment, that's not updated. I'm not sure when that updates, but it will eventually give you overall times for everything that goes through. We can add notes, important note, who's here. You can show it collapsed as default or not, and they'll just show up in there all the time. We can pop safety information in similarly, and that's flagged more red. In here, smart components. So these are pretty cool, and I don't think they're very intuitive, so it's quite helpful probably to see what these are. So smart component is something that allows you to add what we call a key value pair. So we will put this in, and basically you define what the value is, the key. So maybe it's number of cells. And if you want this answer to this to be a required thing as when you run through the protocol. So if we say required, maybe we'll pop this in, number of samples. I'm just kind of making random things up, but you can make as many of these as you want, and add that. And then in the protocol, it will show up like this. And if you then run the protocol, whether you've made a PDF and you're filling it out on the fly and following it as you go along, or if you run it dynamically in protocols.io, then you will be made to fill this out before you can proceed to the next step of the protocol. But, you know, you can use this for things like questions, questionnaires. It has a lot of other applications where you could actually use this for, depending on the nature of what you're working on. And we'll mark this as a pause point. So again, these are the critical steps. And we've got a pause point here. And maybe we'll just say this is critical too. So again, we've got these nice things showing up on the right-hand side. We can add sub-steps. So we have this on the left are the tools that you need for doing things with the steps and so on. So we'll open it out. From here, we will add a sub-step. And then I've obviously added an extra one since I last did this. So these should all be 9, 9, 9. We've done 1, we'll do another one and another one. So then we've got sub-steps under step 9, which allow us to, maybe we would be saying wash 1 of 3. Oh, don't know quite what happened with my numbers there. 1 of 3, wash 2 of 3. That way, when you run it, you can step up, you can click off every part of the workflow that you're doing. So depending what it is, or maybe you've just, you know, when you're creating the mix, perhaps you prefer to break out, add 50 ml of this, add 100 ml of that. You can do that this way. We can add lots of sections. The sections all show up nicely with colors. And again, it's very easy from the left-hand side. Add a section. We'll just call this one new section, inserted. Oops. Jump down on the screen. The sections give us nice table of contents. So if I click on the right-hand side, excuse me, then I can see the sections that I've made in this protocol and navigate between them. Actually, if I click on one, it will jump me down. I won't do that just now, but again, you can go across. Oh, Ramiro, I'm sorry. I'll definitely get to that. I'm sorry for that. But thanks for joining for now. Section 2, images, videos, and tables. So we can add in images. So one of the brilliant things about protocols.io, which makes for better materials and methods than you can have in a research paper, is that you can add all of the images and important things that help to guide someone to run the protocol that you wouldn't be able to put into the paper. So we can insert an image here. So I've got demo images and files. So I've just put in a demo just to figure, just to show how easy it is to pull things from your desktop that you've got. So this is just a demo thing that I found, but if you grab on the little arrows, you can make it larger or smaller, and you can give it a figure legend that will show up when you view the protocol. So it's very easy. You can also add videos, so you can use that same button that I just did here, image video, to pull in a video. So if you have a short one that you've made on your phone, you can pull that in like this. If you have a larger video that is too big to put in that way, what you can also do is embed media. So using this, you can pull content that you perhaps have already put on somewhere like YouTube. So here's a DNA electrophoresis sample loading that someone has put onto YouTube. I won't let it start playing. I think it's going to do. It's showing up on the. We don't need that anyway. What's important is to say that you click on the share button, and under embed, it will give you a little snippet of code, the embed code, that you will again copy, or we can click it here, close that, and go back in here, and then we'll paste. So now I've got that embed code. I can save, and it pulls that video straight into the protocol. So that can be played by anyone who looks at the protocol afterwards. So you can create your own, put them on YouTube or Vimeo. Maybe there's a website that your lab has that you can put the videos on, and then you can do the share embed code very easily. There's a lot of good table functionality. It is not a replacement for Excel, but Excel formulas will work. So I've just got on my other screen that you can't see, I'm just copying a small table. So I'm going to paste what I've just put in over here. I'm going to add another column at the end. And if I wanted to do sum, I could say equals sum. I think it's, what is it? I'm thinking A2 to D2, and then, oh no, maybe that's not the right one. All the best things never work when you try them live. Or is it? It should be A2 to B2, surely. What did I put in? I can't. Sum A2 to C2. That's right. Never works when you try. And then you can pull it down and it will drag across. So it has very much similar functionality to Excel. It's not going to be a replacement for a really complicated Excel spreadsheet, but it does work quite well. What you can also do though is upload a file of an Excel spreadsheet as well, using the attached file if I browse. So if you pull in an Excel spreadsheet and hover over, you can preview. So if you've got something more complicated, like a plate map that you've got in Excel spreadsheet, or something with a lot more complicated content in it, you can pull it in and just preview it. So you'll be able to look when you go through, and you could download again from there. So if you want to make this available to somebody, they would be able to have it that way. Step cases allow you to take different pathways. So this is if you have additional routes that you might go, like a core part at the start that's common to a couple of different protocols, and then one example continuing at 50 degrees, another at 80 degrees, or just different cell types or something like that, that you might want to include different step cases. So we can see here, add new case on the right hand side. It will just give me the ability to create what this is. I'm just going to call it second case in both places. A second divergent pathway. And then we'll add that, and it shows up across. So what's important to know is that once you're in that case, you would have to add all the steps again. So my first case has its ongoing steps. I could copy paste some across, but they won't, I can't make them appear on both, for example. I also can't merge back at the end, but I can diverge. So it gives you the option of giving alternate outcomes, but it doesn't allow you to do something different and then come back. If you need to finish doing something the same at the end, then you would either have to paste in all of the end steps or link to another protocol that had all the end steps, for example. Anyway, we'll jump back to the first case. Section 3, so we've done that, we've created a step case. You can see step 2 has, sorry, B, the step case has a few different options, and A carries on. So we can make lots of different things like this here. Plate maps are a fairly recent addition we've got to the components we've got over here. So you can make it whatever size you want, but you can also just follow template standardized plate sizes. You can also import an Excel file. So actually that one that I added before is an Excel file that will work as an example. So if I click on my plate map example, it will pull this in for me. It knows that it's 8 rows by 12 columns. It's got the file there. I can create that. And so it's pulled in the plate map for me from the file that I had before. The visibility, you do have to scroll around, but you can zoom out and see everything. If you want to see it that way, the text becomes tiny, but it is all in there. We can do it this way. The colors won't come in, but you can define colors for each cell if you want to go through, oops, jumping around. That's a bit more painful, but you can add the color code if you want to the whole plate map. If it wasn't as complicated as this one, I think I want to add another step and just show you an example that's a bit less complicated. So I just add in my 24. There are some preloaded color settings. If you kind of conform to one of these more standardized kind of layouts for the plate map, you could use the color coded setting in here and change what the individual colors are. So maybe we want the first color to be purple and then pinky. Oh, that didn't apply. There we go. Try that again. Then you'll get the colors popped on. So you can kind of configure that and work with it however you like. You can jump back up to an earlier step. So if we wanted to jump back up to step, it has them all kind of in there. If we would just say step 9, then when you run through, it will take you back up to that earlier step. We can add in citations to published papers or links to other protocols. Here's a citation one though. So if I am going to search articles, so published articles, let's look for something from my boss Lenny and see if we can find something. So no more excuses for non-reproducible methods. So that seems like a good one to pop in. We'll save that. It adds the citation into the step. It will also add it, excuse me. It will add it, I promise you, on the, maybe I need to view to see it in the references. It should pop it into the references. There we go. Now we have the reference in there as well. We'll go back to edit for just now. We're down to 22, aren't we? So we've got the citation in. We can link to other protocols as well, though. And if you link into another protocol, then when you run through the protocol, just see if I can find one of my test ones. Just a test protocol, preview what it is. So this has got a few steps, obviously very another kind of demo one that I've done. We'll close, we'll load it collapse, that's fine. But that pops that into, I can preview. And again, when I run, it will prompt me to run through that sub protocol as well. So if you do have, you know, creating a buffer or something that you do regularly in a lot of different protocols, you can make it as a separate one and then just link to the same protocol each time. So easy enough to change the name of sections. Toggle between view and edit. Hopefully you saw that already. So we've got the view and the edit. And when we view, we have the prominent run and copy fork, but we'll just pop back again. I should be using the table of contents to run around. And so, yeah, I showed you the table of contents. We can jump around over here. So we can jump up, we can jump back down. And we're going to quickly run it. So I'll show you how to do a protocol run. So if you haven't already, you just kind of run the protocol. And this allows you to step through every step of the protocol. Click done, and it will track where you've got to along the way. So step 2, what you can also do is click to edit or scale. On the right-hand side, if you wanted, you could edit and add in other components, other things, change what you're adding in here, but you can also scale. So if you're making your sample mix ABC, we can be, you know, I want to save time for the rest of the week. I'm going to make a load more of this today and scale up, and it will scale up for me all of the elements of that. And I can save that. So I'll know what I did when I look back at a record that I create from this. I can add a comment too. So something weird happened. You can just note what happens, make any other observations, and put them into the record of the run that you're doing on that day. And step through. When there's a timer, if you've added one, you can actually run it dynamically in protocols.io, so you can keep an eye on where you're going, and anything that kind of actually just run it dynamically. I don't know, add some safety info. Here's that smart component. I can't go any further until I actually fill in these steps. So we'll say 40 and 3, and then it will let me move forward. So I can go on again. We've got the sub steps. I can do done, but it's got all 3 there. It will take through all at the same time, but it gives you a nudge to go through them all. Etc. And you can see I've got all the way to step 9.1. It's giving me a nice track here of where I've got to. I can go to save. If I don't click now and just save it in my run records, hopefully this will work, and I'll come back to my file manager, and in the run records, at the very top is a protocol run record. It's not the same color as these other ones. These green ones say completed run record. So because I didn't give this one date timestamp and I didn't complete it, I can carry on this run if I want to. So that's an incomplete one. So if there's an overnight, something that you're leaving and you want to come back to it tomorrow, you can come back the next day and click resume. It will take you back into that run and where you were. So we've got bound to here. We can come back, we can see what we did. We can see we scaled, we've got all of that information stored in here. Now we can carry on, done. See, we can run that video if we wanted to in here.
The purpose of this
I won't
video
do that
is
now, but just to show you how that works. If I wanted, if I hadn't added these numbers in here previously, and I was actually, this was data I was observing now, then the sum will update for me because I've got the formulae in the table. So you can actually use the tables to gather information as you run through the protocol if you want to. So save again, it will capture me whatever I've got in the table when I run through. Done. Needs me to pick what I'm going to do. First case, second case. If I went to second case, that would be it. We go back to the first case. It will let me carry on and go through these others all the way through. I'm not going to finish it, but I will now say finish run as if I'd got to the end. Save. Finish. Run will now be uneditable after submitting. Do you want to finish it? I could stop and just leave it as partial still, and that would be fine. But I'll say finish this time. Now it's got completed and it now has the date timestamp on it. So if I go back to my file manager now and refresh, we'll see that that's been finalized now. So now it's green like the rest, it's a completed one. It's got the date and time of when it's finished. So there's all the good stuff in there. I must cover forks and copies because Ramiro asked and then he had to leave. So to make sure I've covered that for him. The difference between fork and copy. So when you look at a protocol, you will always see these on any published protocol will have this. You've got the run button and then you have copy fork. You can actually only copy a protocol that you own. So if I had created coronavirus sequencing protocol, I could make a copy of it to change for a different variant of the virus if I wanted to just set it as a separate protocol. Fork allows you to make a version of someone else's protocol. It's private initially, but you can make changes to it to adapt to a different scenario. In this instance, this coronavirus sequencing protocol has been forked from an Ebola virus sequencing protocol. Because a lot of those two protocols are similar to one another, the Ebola virus one was possible to make a copy of it as a fork so that you see the link is still there, but then just make some changes which were needed for it to be applied to coronavirus rather than Ebola. If you find a protocol that's been forked and you're curious what they changed, you can click the three dots here and scroll down to compare and press that button, and it will show you the two side by side with highlighted parts that are different from one another. So very early on in these, you can see that the template RNA for Ebola virus was 10 microliters, where for coronavirus it was 11. So there's just a different volume. There are different notes along the way pertaining to the different processes, and then different primers, obviously. So you can track exactly what's made different, but what this allows you to do is make a new protocol very quickly if you know that it's going to be very similar to something that's already available. So maybe you want to make your own fork of a coronavirus sequencing protocol, but because you've got different equipment in your lab, you can do your own one. So if I make my own copy, we will call it Emma's copy, well, Emma's fork, because that copy is confusing, and we'll pop it just into my workspace again, top level, and put next. And then it will ask me if I want to edit it or view it. So we'll just go straight into edit. And then I've got an exact copy of that protocol, all of the steps, all of the information, all of the different, anything else they've popped in. They haven't put materials, but they have got description and abstract and things. But I can change it. So if I've got just some different buffers or different information, like relevant equipment along the way, I can make all my own edits to this to change it from my own application of that protocol. And then it's in here. It still has Josh as the author. I can change that if I make significant changes. But I own it. So, and it's private. I could publish it if I wanted to, but I can also just keep it private to have my own version of that on protocols.io. What's quite nice is, I'll jump back to the coronavirus one. You can see, well, if you land on a protocol like this and the authors have subsequently updated it, you'll be told there's a newer version. I'm going to close that now. You can also see all of the subsequent reuse. So if you're interested in knowing if you've made a method that a lot of other people are using, you can track the reuse by looking under the forks tab. So this one's got 6 public forks, 57 private, obviously at least one of those I've just made now. But you can see that a lot of other people have come along and made forks, and they've versioned this protocol because clearly it was so useful globally for people to be able to build on this coronavirus sequencing one. It is an extreme example of the reuse, but it shows really nicely the power of being able to take someone else's protocol and make adaptations for yourself. Other times when this might be useful is just if you're working on your own content, maybe you've done something on kidney cells and you've created the protocol, protocols.io, and you've got something very similar, but you're going to apply it, excuse me, to liver cells or some other cell type. You can just make the fork and make the changes that are relevant. Excuse me, I've got a tickle. And it will save you a lot of time if a core part of the protocol is the same. Where have I got to? So I've done images and videos. I've done the fork versus copy. I'll quickly talk about collections. I think I have one opened, but maybe I don't actually. From my file manager, I know I've got an example in here. Oh, actually, I'll come to this one. I think I can. This one was a good one. Reasons why you might want to make a collection of protocols. If you want to gather together protocols that you have as part of a research paper. So this one, for example, was a PLOS biology paper. Commensal bacteria, essential amino acids. They say materials and methods for Drosophila rearing, media preparations, and microbial manipulations are available as a collection on protocols.io. So we'll open up that link. This DOI is the collection that they made available when they published the paper. The authors have come along and they've subsequently updated at least one of those protocols. So when we land on it, we'll always be told if there's a newer version. So we can jump to the newer version. If we want, we can compare again. There's always an ability on any of the individual protocols to see different versions, and we can jump backwards and forwards between the versions as well if we want. But the collection shows up very much like a protocol, but it has the individual separate protocols within. So if you are submitting as part of a research paper, great way to gather everything together. Or, you know, if you have sequential protocols that you might commonly do as a part of some overarching project, you can create a collection to gather them together. If you do publish them, each one will have its own DOI, and these can all be opened separately, and you can just see what they've popped in them. It has its own, excuse me, DOI that's separate from the collection, but it also tells you it's in 2 collections. I think one of the collections here is the is just one where we highlight nice protocols, but they also say it's part of the manuscript. We have the link to the manuscript, and then it's, you know, it's a separate protocol, so it's easy to see. And this one hasn't been versioned, so it's not one of the ones that were updated. If you make them yourself, this is just an example one. Just show you what that looks like behind the scenes. You can search all public protocols or your files. So I have 3 in there, but maybe I'll just look, or maybe look in my files. So I think there we go, test with attachment. That's the one I think I made earlier. So we'll pop that in. So I had got already 1 for test, 2 for test, 3 for test, and I've just added test with attachment. I can move these up and down really easily. So maybe I want the test with attachment to be at the top, and then 1, 2, and 3. You can see it's as easy as that, just linking in many different protocols. You can give it its own abstract and all of these things, and then view. So I had previously reserved a DOI for this, but now that I've changed it, I'm curious actually if that one will also have a reserved DOI. So this one doesn't have the reserved DOI, but I can carry on and do that with it if I want to. But all of the others have this reserved DOI. So that's the difference between publishing and making everything available straight away, or reserving a DOI. You can publish. So if you're on any of those earlier protocols, the publish option is just a 6-step process. It will make you fill in some parts like abstract, add an author if you haven't. So I don't think it will let me go on. No, I haven't talked about funding, doesn't apply. I haven't added any authors. I'll have to add myself and go through. It will just nudge you through a 6-step process, and at the end it will give you the DOI, or your protocol will be entered into a screening process. That's just us making sure it's not spam or pseudoscience, essentially, but it's trivial. It's trivial part of it. And at the end, you would have the DOI would show up like on a published protocol. So like here. If you reserve the DOI instead, at the end, you'll have this reserved DOI, and you'll also get a private link. So if you want to submit it as a part of a manuscript that you don't want to be public straight away, you can use this. You know what the DOI will be, so you can put that into your research paper, but you can also give reviewers and editors access to the protocol with this link that's in here. You'll see that at the end of the reserve DOI process, but you can always get back to it from this little button next to the reserve DOI. And then when the paper's published, you can come back and click and just go through 2-second process, confirmations, and publish, and the protocol will be made public. So there's tons of options there. On any individual protocol that's not published, so this one wasn't, if you want to share with lots of other people or within a workspace, you have loads of options here. So you can look for workspaces, you can look for people. I could share this with Lenny, my boss at Protocols. So I can add him. So you can add anyone by their email. You can give them different permissions. They can view, they can edit and publish. They can be co-admin. That means they could also control sharing and things like this. It won't be implemented until you click save. You can also share with workspaces. So I could share to the PLOS ONE Lab Protocols workspace. Again, I can give different permissions if I add these in these places. I'll take that one off. I'll take Lenny off too, but I won't need to save, and then you can do these things. So there's loads and loads of functionality there for sharing. So I should also note, if you want a private link without going through that whole reserved DOI, you can get one by clicking, it's the little lock chain icon at the top, which will give you a reviewer link. So you can either click to get a private link, so that allows you to share with anyone, useful to ensure access to reviewers and editors, or even a blind link. Some journals will do double-blind peer review. This will create a link to your protocol that removes all author information. So if it was being reviewed, reviewers wouldn't know who had created the protocol. So sometimes people are using that for double-blind review, but otherwise you'll just click it and have the link. Anyone will then have access to the protocol that way, used through that link. Think that was a lot, but that was all the parts I was going to go through today. We've probably got time for a few Q&A if anyone has any questions. Hopefully that's been helpful information. I will stop the share, but I can bring it back up if anyone has a question. that it's useful for me to actually demo. And then, I mean, yeah, let me know if that was useful. Feedback is always welcomed. We have been recording. I will stop the recording. So if anyone wants me to unmute them, I can do that as well.